that's the first hole cored out, and I went to the right through that stud. It was just the end of the stud wall, it's not supporting anything. So I hacked away a bit of that so we could go through the 4-inch concrete block rather than go through that great big stone wall. So that's why I tucked it away in the corner. It's a lot quicker that way. So little back to basics on drilling the cores. So I've done endless amounts really around the house, as well as that metre long one that we did for the oil flue, for the biomass boiler. And for 2 or 3 of those I went out and hired the core I needed, the core drilling set, and all of those times I've just used it on my SDS drill. So this little brute here, you know, for 9 years I've been battling through walls with this as a breaker, as a drill, and also for this core drilling. And like, you can't go wrong. £50 I think it was. I don't know if they still make it, but way cheaper in the long run than hiring. And even when it comes to the core drilling, if you're starting a renovation and you know you're going to need to put in a few vents here and there, or run some pipe work through walls, then yes, you can go out and hire these. I can't remember how much they were, but I probably hired 3 or 4 times, and it only takes you to go back a day late, and then you paid for 2 days, and in the long run get yourself a set if you know you're going to do a few. These will nowhere near last as long as the higher grade ones, because the higher shops, certainly my ones, use the master wrists or whatever they are, and they're like 200 quid a pop if you were to buy them. But this set, you get a 100mm, a whatever that was once, 50mm, and a 38mm. Well, you know, that's going to last. If you're just doing a minimal amount of handyman jobs or around your own house, then they've got to be alright. It's the whole way that this system works, which is different from the Hilti, which I borrowed to the boiler flue. This just goes on your standard SDS drill, and rather than putting the drill bit in there, you're attaching the arbor into the chuck. Whatever you're using, whichever core, you then go onto there. But to start you off, you always use a pilot, which I had in my pocket somewhere. So you put the pilot, otherwise you'd be wandering all over the place if you tried to start with that. So this is not an SDS, it's kind of a tapered bit, and it wedges in there. Then you would start off, and then once you're in a certain distance, then you can get rid of that and you can carry on through. And then of course, if you like the stone walls here and they're 500mm thick, then you can add extensions. So that's a time when maybe it's not worth, I think I've bought 2, so I can get to, I don't know, 400mm or so. You might want to get, if you needed a really long one for some reason on an old stone wall, then maybe you need to just hire an extension piece. But 60 quid I think this was a few years ago. So a good investment, I think. And then you end up with a big plug like this. And if you're anything like our first electricians who were here and they were drilling the ensuite extractor, this plummets out of the wall on the external side of the house, falls down through the glass porch roof, and smashes the cast iron gutter. But ideally you can kind of work your way through, and then sometimes you can break it out and pull it out. Usually if it's concrete like this, it comes out in the core, or if it's stone, like when I was going through the stone, you end up kind of coring through one stone, and then you can break that bit out, and then you start again and work your way through. Anyway, back on with our insulation. That is ready now for the electricians to crack on and put that extractor in. And of course the Hilti was a much more powerful beast for doing that, but really, like I said, an SDS drill gets you through most. I would say though that the dust extraction that came on that Hilti system was really good, and if you were going to be drilling in a house, you know, above someone's carpet or whatever, then you definitely want to go that route. But for most jobs, the system I've got is adequate. I need to put an extractor fan somewhere along this utility area. I hadn't realised it, but I think that's a regulation, and it makes sense to have one anyway, because we're going to be fairly airtight to an extent in here, so it'd be good to keep the airflow there when needed. So I really need to measure down because it needs to be somewhere below the cabinet height, the wall cabinet, and the countertop. It's going to need, I'm not going to get a cooker hood because I don't think, well, certainly not whilst we're here, we won't be putting an oven in here. But just a simple extractor on a switch spur somewhere will be adequate. What does that chicken want? What do you want, Raisin? There's a fine line between having really friendly chickens and chickens that think it's acceptable to come in through the back door into the kitchen. We once had a chicken that would lay its eggs on the dog bed in the kitchen. Each day would come in through the back door. Let's go and see what she wants. Maybe she wants a cuddle. This is Raisin, our little black silky. She's a good little girl. She's actually quite old. She's 5 now. But the girls want a few more of these, so we're going to put a few eggs in the incubator. Here is your 30-second silky chicken fact of the day. So they originate near China years ago. Now they've been bred just as a pet and show chicken. They don't have regular feathers. You can see they're just fluff. So basically the barbs which keep all the parts of the feather together don't exist, so they just remain fluffy. So they don't do well in the rain. She's a smallish, large fowl version. They come bantam and miniature, and they come bearded or non-bearded. She was bearded, and now she's lost her beard a bit. What else? Silkies are one of the only chicken breeds to have 5 toes. You can see they got the extra toe there. And they also have blue skin, so they don't make the best roast chicken. Sorry, I shouldn't say that near you. Anyway, they're good fun. They don't scratch around too much, and they can't fly over fences because they simply can't fly. It's like the menagerie's taken over today. As you can see, I get very easily distracted and have a slightly odd interest in poultry. My mum thought I'd grow out of it, but never happened. My poor parents put up with so much. At times I had peacocks and pheasants and quail, chickens, ducks. I had 25 turkeys in my parents' garage once. It's a wonder I ever married. It's rather late now, but there's a few things I really had to get done by the end of today, really, before the electricians show up tomorrow. So while I did do kind of the first fix in the first room, I just need to kind of hand some of this over, and of course we need to get everything signed off anyway. So I've got a local firm coming in. I think a couple of guys will be in the morning, 8 AM, come in and just run all the first fix so I can go ahead and board out, and that's just going to speed things up. Yes, it's a cost, but everything's got to be signed off and it's got to be done properly anyway. So that will happen tomorrow, but what I wanted to do today and tonight is to get everything in where possible, all the stud work, so that they can see exactly what's going to be where. So that included drilling the 2 holes, the 2 cores for the extractors, also putting in additional blocking and stud work, so like above where the door lining is going to go on both of those, And as you might remember, we had this wall that I put in ready to hang the boiler on, and I had to put that in ahead of time. I've now been able to extend it up to our new ceiling height. So that needs insulating and boarding, but now at least it's there that any cables can be run along. This side, this is an external wall of the house, but it's now going to be becoming an internal wall completely, because the full length of it, there'll be a room on the back of the house when we come to build that. There's the porch / side extension going on this side. So this is actually going to be a warm wall. So I've studied off it just to, because it was all over the place. We can run the cables and things behind there if needed. And it just straightened it up. But there were all the controls for the heating and even the consumer unit I'm having relocated up to here. So I put some 18mm ply up on the wall there. Everything can be fixed to that. That'll be a cupboard. There'll also be a cupboard down the bottom where the stopcock is. So that just needs to be built out a little bit, but I'm not going to get around to that tonight. Lastly, in the bathroom, I've got the little vent. I mean, I normally try and use the rigid ducting like I've done over the other side. But because I had to go across and through that single skin, I'm kind of restricted. I use the plastic flexi stuff. It's only about 300mm, 400mm long to where it is, and I've got a bit of a slope on it, so it should be fine. I also will be building a wall in front of this, a cupboard in front of the boiler, so the fan itself will sit out here. But for first fix, they can just bring it, at least they can be able to see what's what. Although it's only first fix, I've gone out and got lighting. It's going to be a light above where a mirror will be, above the basin, and I bought a circular flat LED wall light, or it's a ceiling light, and I figured actually, because we're fairly low, we'll use it on the wall. But actually it is really slim. I may decide to put it in the ceiling. I'll kind of decide that tomorrow when they get here. One other thing I was going to get round to trying to get done is that the supply coming in from the house is a 6mm cable, which is sufficient for a utility room and that sort of thing, and the other room won't be a workshop long term anyway. The only thing is, if we wanted to have a small oven in here, then that's probably not going to be beefy enough, even if it's just a cooktop or something like that. So I bought some 10mm cable, and I was going to reroute it from the main consumer unit to here, ready for them when they move the box along. But it's just quite a lot of disruption in the house, so I'm not going to go ahead with that. This will be absolutely fine for us. It's only really if this was converted into a flat or something. And there's just it's just overthinking it, I think. And it's not the end of the world, actually, that when we come off the back with the rear extension, it'll be a raised suspended floor. So whether that's block and beam or timber, and we'll be able to come along underneath that and up, which means no boxing in or taking up floors in the house to get it across. So I'm going to leave it there. Bit of a random video, I'm afraid, but such is DIY life. But I can grab myself a coffee now, go around and just mark up where I want everything, because when they come in I haven't really got a plan on paper. So rather than spend ages printing off and mapping out the floor plan, I'll just grab a Sharpie and I'll just mark up on the studs. And I've started that where our worktop height is, where we want double sockets and things like that. But most of it's self-explanatory, and I'm sure it's kind of bread and butter stuff for them. But that's it. Thanks for watching. Remember, if you can, do it yourself. And I'll see you next time. Oh, one bonus thing. The eagle-eyed amongst you may have spotted that I replaced that stud on our corner post with a strip of ply. That's just basically because I don't want to trim down the door too much, and it worked out that with an 18mm strip of ply either side, and then our door lining, which is still to go in, we then end up with a nice door opening, which is a full-size door.